Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
Assalam
salam.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, good afternoon and assalamu alaikum to all honorable participants. And once again, we are very blessed to have this webinar by International Institute of Islamic Thought, IIIT. And welcome everyone. My name is Nadeem, Tahir Nadeem. I'm an English language and literature teacher attached and associated with, blessed to be associated with Islamic Qasim Twin Memorial College of Hong Kong since 2006. And I'm also member of college admin team. And today it's my honor to coordinate and a little bit moderate this session by our Honorable Ustadz Mamoon Al-Azami. So first of all, as Brother Yusuf mentioned, we are really blessed to have our Honorable Chief Imam of Hong Kong, Honorable Mufti Arshad. Thank you very much for taking your precious time to join us here. So let's start today's session by requesting Honorable Chief Imam of Hong Kong, Mufti Arshad, to recite verses from the Holy Quran to bless this session. Mufti Arshad, please.
Thank you very much. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, all
Walaikum
brothers
salam.
and sisters. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا إن كنتم مؤمنين فإن لم تفعلوا فأذنوا بحرب من الله ورسوله وإن تبتم فلكم رؤوس أموالكم لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون وإن كان ذو عسرة فنظرة إلى ميسرة وأن تصدقوا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, be afraid of Allah and give up what remains due to you from riba, usury, from now onward. If you are really believers, and if you don't do it, then take a notice of war from Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if you repent, you shall have your capital sums, and deal not unjustly by asking more than your capital sums, and you shall not be dealt with unjustly by receiving less than your capital sums. And if the debtor is in a hard time, has no money, then grant him the time till it is ease for him to repay. But if you remit it by the way of the charity, that is better for you if you know. Sadaqallahul Azim. And at this time, indeed, it is a great time for the Muslim that they are learning the Islamic finance and awareness. But at the same time, it is the most difficult time for our Muslim brothers in Palestine, in Gaza especially. And we should also do dua for them, and we should remember them in our duas, and whatever the help someone can extend, he has or she has to extend. And so I would like to request our brothers to do the dua for them.
Inshallah.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والعاقبة للمتقين على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين. اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة لإخواننا المسلمين المستضعفين في غزة وفي أنحاء العالم. اللهم
آمين.
انصرهم ولا تنصر عليهم، اللهم أعنهم ولا تعن عليهم. اللهم انصر إخواننا المسلمين في فلسطين وفي غزة، اللهم اجعلهم ذا العزة، اللهم اجعلهم ذا العزة في غزة. اللهم انصرهم ولا تنصر عليهم، اللهم أعنهم ولا تعن عليهم. اللهم تدبير أعدائهم تدميرا، اللهم اجعل تدبير أعدائهم تدميرا عليهم يا أرحم الراحمين. صدق الله ومولانا العظيم. صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
الحمد لله.
Jazakumullah
جزاك
khairan, Honorable Chief Imam of Hong Kong, Honorable Mufti Arshad, for setting up a very solid foundation to this webinar by reciting the very specific verses of the Holy Quran. I said specific because they are very, very directly linked and give us the guiding path for today's topic, that is Islamic versus capitalist economic system, by Honorable Ustadh Mamoon Al-Azami. So just a very quick intro as per our convention. As many of us know, that Ustadh Mamoon is a very seasoned trainer with over 30 years of international training and development experience. And he is, alhamdulillah, an accredited action-centered leadership trainer, ACL trainer with a very, very, I should say, great reputation as an international trainer. So without any further ado, we are going to be benefited from Ustadh Mamoon Al-Azami in the light of Quran and Hadith to shed light on Islamic versus capitalist economic system. Ustadh Mamoon Al-Azami, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. My brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
As you just heard the recitation from Quran, Allah is talking about those who deal in interest and usury. It's simple interest or compound interest. Both are interest. Then Allah is declaring war against them. So it is very dangerous territory for us to deal with it, because even shirk, Allah simply said, I will not forgive them. But Allah is not declaring for mushrikeen war. But with those involved in riba, Allah is declaring war. So it's that dangerous. So we need to understand that. And I also understand that there is an issue, not just in non-Muslim countries, but also Muslim countries, because the whole global economic system is built on interest. And not the prohibition of interest and in establishment of zakah based economy. So let's look at the contents. So I give Quran and Hadith reference on money matters, then global experts on the harms of capitalism, and then talk about Islamic economic system. It's the main system I'm talking about, and also capitalist economic system. Then I'm going to talk about Islamic economic system being equal and just, and case studies of two, not some, but two Western capitalist states, USA and UK, about poverty and inequality in those countries. So there is Quran. Starts with Islamic idea is adl and ihsan. Adl is justice, ihsan is extra kindness. It's like if I have a duty to somebody, then I do it, that's adl. If I do more than my duty, it's ihsan. So Allah is saying, this verse is recited by the Imams, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ وَإِيتَاءِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ وَالْبَغْيِ يَعِظُكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. Okay, this is about also it's from Quran. It's that those who are interest aligned, Allah is saying that those who consume interest cannot stand on the day of judgment except as one who stands being beaten by shaitan into insanity, meaning they have become mad, crazy, out of order mindset. So Allah is describing taking this as a kind of mental illness. And they also say trade is like interest. But Allah is saying Allah has permitted trade. So this is really very harsh and hard and stark words. This is about Allah has sent down the book, and purchase a small gain therewith. That means وَيَشْتَرُونَ بِهِ ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا. Any benefit from dunya is ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا, means very cheap exchange. So the kitab's instruction avoided for cheap gain. Dunya gain is cheap gain. That's what Allah is saying. And then those gains, Allah is saying, أُولَٰئِكَ مَا يَأْكُلُونَ فِي بُطُونِهِمْ إِلَّا النَّارِ. They are filling their bellies with fire. So, and then Allah warning that وَلَا يُكَلِّمُهُ اللَّهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. So I'm not going to read all of them. The basic issue is any dunya benefit is small gain compared to what Allah is saying we should do. As Muslims, we have to accept Allah and Rasul as final decision maker for us. In fact, if you read Surah An-Nisa, verse number 65, Allah is talking about فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُوكَ فِي مَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ ثُمَّ لَا يَجِدُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَرَجًا وَيُسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. That there is, this is Allah is saying by swearing that nobody has any faith until Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam sayings of him becomes the final authority in my personal and social life. That's really something that if Allah and Rasul said something, that sami'na wa ata'na, we just listen and we obey, and that's the way we get peace and tranquility in this world and Jannah in the other world. So this is important for us to understand. This is also when we spend for the sake of Allah, and the family is also for the sake of Allah. مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت 7 سنابل في كل سنبلة. Then they say مئة حبة في كل سنبلة 100 حبة, meaning if you put a seed on the ground, Allah is saying spending on the way in the way of Allah is like putting a seed into the ground and 7 branches come out, and each branch contains مئة حبة, 100 seeds. والله يضاعف لمن يشاء. Allah can increase whatever He wishes. Wallahu wasi'un alim. So Allah is saying, if you spend with the intention to please Allah, for the sake of Allah, in the halal areas of spending, then Allah can increase it up to 700 times. Because one seed, 7 branches and 100 seeds each means 700. So this is what Allah is saying. If you do it right, I give you a lot more than you bargained for. Then this is very important about balance and medium way, middle path in spending. وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفَقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا وَلَمْ يَقْتُرُوا وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ قَوَامًا. Meaning they are not miserly and they are not overspending character, but they hold in the middle ground. So they are neither extremes. This is also from Quran. Again, spending, because spending we can spend on many things that are wasteful, harmful, and also sinful. Here Allah is saying, الذين ينفقون في السراء والضراء والكاظمين الغيظ والعافين عن الناس Wallahu yuhibbul muhsinin. This is Allah is saying those who spend their wealth in difficult times and easy times. Easy times is sarra, or dharra is difficult times. وَالْقَاضِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ, they digest their anger. وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, they forgive people's mistakes. Then Allah loves these people who are muhsinin. These activities, this kind of mindset, this kind of behavior and character makes one muhsin, which is the highest level for a believer. Let's have some hadith. There are 72 types of riba, the least of which is like a man committing zina with his mother. How can anyone think of dealing in riba? And there is another one I have not added. There are many. لعن آكل الربا ومؤكله وشاهديه وكاتبه. 4 categories of actions is cursed by Allah. Those who take riba, those who give riba, those who record riba, and those who work for riba. They are witnesses to riba deals. So those are 4: taking, giving, witnessing, and recording. So a riba bank would therefore be also haram money. Okay. Then there is zakah issue. These riba and zakah are the 2 fundamental issues of Islamic economics. So you can see this is 8 categories. This is in Surah Tawbah, verse number 60. And these are innama sadaqatu lil fuqara. It continues like that. Then it is Prophet ﷺ is saying, give in charity, so that we can gain. This is from Bukhari. And if you give charity, Allah will give you. I have read somewhere very interesting statement saying that when I give charity to the needy people, then it is gain for them in dunya, but by taking my charity, they give gain for me in akhirah, material gain. But dunya gain is satisfaction and happiness and peace. So these are types of sadaqah we can spend, so that in society, people who are disadvantaged, underprivileged, poor, dependent, so these people need help, and Islamic character, Islamic social concern and role will give people support that the capitalist system will refuse. And these are 5 questions, and 2 of them are about income and expenditure, where they had earned the money and where they spent it. These are 2 of the 5 questions on the Day of Judgment. These are the 5. Life, youth, income, expenditure, and knowledge and practice. Ills of capitalism. This is John Kenneth Galbraith. He's one of the top British economists who made government role in economics and the full employment, the macroeconomic management policies. These are coming from J.K. Galbraith. He's saying under capitalism, man exploits man. Under communism, just the opposite, meaning again the same exploitation. So he's saying that because he changed something. He made government play a bigger role in the economy to support the helpless, because otherwise capitalists and rich and powerful will always exploit the poor and powerless. So he introduced government's role in the economy in a more constructive way, so that the social security system in Europe, for example, where people have no job, they get money from the government to survive. This is coming from him. The economic management at the state level is coming from him. His book it was the introduction of government big role in managing the economy to support the people and create conditions where people do not suffer poverty, inequality, and hunger. This is Noam Chomsky, is a senior professor. You would know that he's a Jewish, but he is the most critical of all Western scholars against Israeli oppression. He is he supports the justice and fairness for the Palestinian people. He's saying the basic principle of modern state capitalism is that costs and risks are socialized, meaning the government faces the costs, but the profits are given to the rich and powerful. So it's saying profit is privatized, cost is socialized. Socialized means it's taken by government. So the bank is failing, government will pour tax money and save the rich from going down. So this is what his view is. Cost and risk are socialized and profit is privatized. This is Martin Luther King, very important point. He said, from the second sentence, the fact is that capitalism was built on the exploitation and suffering of black slaves and continues to thrive on the exploitation of the poor, both black and white, both here and abroad. Martin Luther King's words are, high value words and high meaningful words. Here is Ghana founding fathers quote on capitalism. It is only the ending of capitalism, colonialism, imperialism, and neocolonialism. These are all connected, by the way, that can provide conditions under which the race question can finally be abolished and eliminated. Because you can still see Ukraine being attacked becomes a big issue because of invasion of Russia invading Ukraine, but the Israelis invading West Bank is not an issue. 75 years of suffering, not an issue. The Ukrainian suffering, big issue. So you can see the hypocrisy and double standard, and this is what Nkrumah is talking about. These are the problems of capitalism. You have inequality, and I will show you economic instability. That's why you see the banking crisis and the housing crisis. And I will show you the US government debt is bigger than the rest of the world combined. You cannot believe it. Because they control the world, they have more than 750 military bases around the world. They can maintain, and dollar, their currency is the international currency. And the dollar is surviving because of two particular pillars. Chinese are holding the government bonds. So they bought the bonds. So the money was used by the US government. And then the oil price is in dollars. If China's 40% of $3.1 trillion foreign currency reserve, if they are to release this, they're slowly releasing it, they are to release it, then the dollar will collapse. If the petrol money, oil money is changed from dollar, then the dollar will find no buyers because everybody has to pay oil money in dollars. International dealings are in dollars. So Russia and China have come together so that they can help each other with their own currency being the exchange currency, not dollar. This is capitalist financial mindset. You can see my wealth belongs to me. Wealth is due to my effort alone. I can do what I want with it. The economy gives and I take. And he's saying dog eats dog. World means whoever the might is right kind of thing. I have power, I will use that power, right or wrong, and gain all the materials I need. So there's also scarcity mindset is continuously, need is not so many, want is so many. So we have, I want more, I want more, I want more. And you will see there are so many billionaires around the world, they can't even spend it. In the Islamic economic system, this is about interest, The verses are here, 2 verses. Prohibition of interest is the first principle of Islamic economic system. Income must be halal is second principle. Third principle is zakat is established. These are the 8 categories here in the verse 60 of Tawbah. And to take money from the rich and help the poor is to purify the rich in their hearts and in their remaining money. So, and there are other verses that وفي أموالهم حق للسائل والمحروم. In the wealth of the rich there is right, not just favor, right of the poor and the deprived. There is another verse. So here is inheritance sharing. One verse. This is about inheritance. This is also about inheritance, about if wife leaves. First one is man goes and then wife goes. Okay. And then if there is no children, what happens? These are the 3 references from Quran about the 4th principle of inheritance being distributed. See, when it is distributed, it becomes not concentrated but shared, so that there is no inequality, there is no concentration of wealth power. And also notice that, of course, man gets 2 shares and woman gets 1 share, and the whole world screams. But they don't see that women have rights but no responsibilities, even for their own needs. The father has to look after and provide for her. Then husband has to provide for her. Then son has to provide for her. Even she's rich, she doesn't need to provide for her. She has no responsibility for anyone, even herself. That's how they have been given a favor by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by giving half the man's share. Man has to take care of the family. Woman doesn't even need to take care of herself. So that's where their financial rights but no financial responsibility. Principle 5 is follow the middle path. Not overspend, not miserly, and be moderate and middle path community. So these are 3 references. And circulate wealth is that كَيْ لَا تَكُونَ دَوْلَةً بَيْنَ الْأَغْنِيَاءِ مِنْكُمْ. The Quran says that the wealth should not move around the rich only. And there are references from Quran about circulation of wealth and distribution of war booty. If there is war and there is war booty, how it is to be distributed after Battle of Badr, Surah Anfal talks about it. Okay. The harms of capitalist system here. 7 principles. They have vested interest. That's the foundation. Meaning those who are already powerful and rich, they control everything. Even now, they control most of the things. When bankers, in UK, for example, bankers had a ceiling of how much bonus they can take. The big corporations, shareholders, and board of management. Now that ceiling has been removed, so they can take as much as they want. So, and they're getting richer. And I will show you. Self-interest is the key to society, not caring about others. Private ownership is absolute. There is nobody can touch private ownership. Private profit is key motivation, that I gain. That's the motivation. Nothing to do with the public, nothing to do with others or social concern. Trade is by market, not ethics, meaning demand and supply. Pornographic industry is big because there is demand for it, but no ethics is needed. So their system does not deal with ethics or values, but market demand, market supply. Free competition, but unequal, because the powerful can push out the small businessman or businesswoman. And the government cannot interfere in the market. That's the government restriction that the principle imposes, the capitalist principle is that government should leave the market to play it. Demand, supply, and the price is set accordingly. The harm is, for each of those points, I say first one is unjust and biased system towards favoring the rich. Then the social interest served by self-interest, meaning monopoly, they control the supply, and therefore people have to buy things from them, and they can set the price. So they can beat the poor and powerless. Then there is services by payment with most limited public sector, meaning public service and private service. You see, there are four categories in a society, in an economy. You have public sector for public service, like street lighting is a public service. Street is a public service because you cannot stop somebody not paying tax from benefiting from the light and the street. So this is public service that cannot be divided easily between paying taxes and non-paying taxes, meaning you can't buy your light in the street. So this is public service. The private service is commercial service. Private sector is commercial service. I pay and I get it, whether it's goods or service. Then there is what is known as voluntary sector or community sector. This is for community service. This is the NGO sector. And there is the family sector where it is a personal service. So you have public service, commercial service, community service, and personal service. Those are the four categories. In the Western world, the family side is absent. So they only talk about three sector economy. But in Islamic terms, four sector economy. So these are the harms. I will show you more harm later on. Look at capitalism in history. They created imperialism, colonialism, looting of the wealth. They killed people that they colonized. America is a settler colony, successful settler colony. They killed huge number of people, of the locals, to take control. It has become white country. It wasn't. So from UK, people went and took over. They were welcomed by the local people as friendly, but then they started taking over the land and killing the people. So this is what happened to North America, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. They killed people in Algeria. 1.6 million people killed by French. In India, Churchill withheld food supply, so millions died. In Bengal, it's called Bengal famine. In the United Bengal under the British, Churchill even said, these people breed like rats. This is Churchill. So can you see the attitude, the prejudicial attitude? Then there is Libya. Italian army killed huge number of people in Libya. Umar Mukhtar was resisting, and he was his people were killed and he was hanged. Latin America is now Spanish and Portuguese. Brazil is Portuguese, but it wasn't originally Portuguese. It was colonized by Portugal. Still local people are there. You have rest of Latin America, mostly Spanish speaking because the Spain colonized them. Some pockets of English speaking because British colonized them. So all of them, they have been permanently changed because of the colonial project. Then they invented racism, and they are still practicing it, because between Ukraine and Palestine, you can see it. The slave trade, they took from Africa slaves, and they were treated as if they were not human. They exploited the countries, they subjugated countries, they still do. This is capitalism in practice. And their own countries controlled by rich and powerful. They dominate the world. You see, America has 750 military bases around the world. Why do they need that? They want to control, and they want to extract and loot. They are also running proxy war, regime change, and constant war. Saddam Hussein or Muammar Gaddafi, whatever harms they did, the Americans went there and created havoc. And they were the two most developed Arab countries in terms of education and health. But they are no more. So you can see these are some other inequality and selfishness. Relationship is based on money. And some people earn without working. They have money, so they lend by interest and gain interest, and they do nothing. There's increased unemployment and underemployment of the powerless. Then there are social conflicts between rich and poor, but the law will prevent the poor from asserting their right. This is from a Western NGO saying 42 people hold the same wealth as 3.7 billion people of the world. 42 people in the world, they have the same wealth as 3.7 billion people of the world. There's another one. In 12 months during a pandemic, the billionaires increased their wealth by 762 billion, which is enough to end extreme poverty 7 times. So this is the contribution of capitalism. This is another 20 million people die from all these things because capitalism would not allow help reaching them, because they want to increase the billions. So this is what's the whole world has enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed. And this greed is capitalism. Let's look at some Islamic system. In government, Islam, the Quran talks about 4 fundamental roles of a government. الذين مكناهم في الأرض أقاموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة وأمروا بالمعروف ونهوا عن المنكر ولله عاقبة الأمور. Now, 4 things: establish prayer, and the prayer is building character. إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر. So Allah is saying it is the prayer will prevent vulgarity and bad things from people. So prayer is character building mechanism. So therefore, if citizens are praying, they can build their character. It also collects and distributes zakat to help the poor and needy. That's government job. It also needs to command, promote, and protect goodness among citizens, and command and prevent evil and harm in society for people. So these are the 4 categories dictated by Allah in the Quran in Surah Al-Hajj. Okay, this is the government role in terms of justice and equality in society. So also, you can see first is eliminate interest, second is zakah is key instrument of poverty alleviation, mirath or inheritance is the cornerstone of distribution of wealth, healthy investment for economic well-being for all, waqf and sadaqah as safety net for the poor and needy, and middle path is the way to a caring community, and prohibition of harmful businesses. These are the equality, justice in the Islamic system. So no billionaires is possible in an Islamic system. These are the Quran Sunnah prohibiting unlawful gains, the corruption, the deceiving, the gambling, and prostitution, immorality, drugs, and all those things that are in capitalist economics. A government will not allow these to happen, like I just said. So here you can see Islam has Aqidah, faith, Sharia, practice, and Akhlaq, morals and ethics. Then from Sharia, you have the Ibadat and Muamalat. Ibadat is for Allah, Muamalat is with people, where economics comes in. Then there is political, economic, social activities within economics and banking and financial activities. That's how it's all linked. Islamic financial mindset in individuals, these are the things that they concern themselves about. In Islam, it promotes, and government it promotes and prevents otherwise. So the wealth belongs to Allah, because Allah says, وَلِلَّهِ مِيرَاثُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Allah is the inheritor of all the wealth of the world. Because I die, I leave. My son dies, my daughter dies, they leave too. So in the end, they all return. So wealth is a test and things like that. So mindset is completely different. Wealth management in Islam, you can see the owner and the assets and how 2.5% distributed to the 8 categories of zakat. So this is a structure where you can see how wealth is managed in Islam. There's waqf. Waqf means endowment. If I buy a land or property or business and I say it's waqf, it will maintain itself, but its profits will be given to the poor and needy and the categories of zakah. Okay. Now let's look at case study. In America, their own census is saying 39.8 million are in poverty. And they are paying $4 billion to Israel, which is a rich country. Every year they pay $4 billion to Israel. And yet they have almost 40 million living in poverty in America. National debt is more than almost $33 trillion. So you can see per person debt in US population is everyone owes $92,528. This is capitalism, impact of capitalism. International trade balance is 945 billion. So what they buy is 945 billion more than what they sell. And they can maintain it because the dollar is the international currency, their currency. They just print it. Previously, dollar was backed by gold. But the gold standard was left, so they just print dollars when they need it. That's why everything is dollar, because they have dollarized the global economy. And look at that, 69% of the wealth is owned by top 10%. Top 10% Americans own almost 70% of the wealth. That means 90% people own 30% of the wealth. 90% have 30%. 2.5% wealth is owned by the bottom 50%. So you can see bottom 50% only own 2.5% of the wealth. This is America. That was it. You can see in which year. So wages rose very slowly for the bottom 90%. And you can see 53 billion housing help was given to the poor. But 193 billion was given to the rich. This is how inequality increases. 18 million Americans live in deep poverty, according to official statistics. Racial wealth gap is the same since 60s. In other words, the black people of America is still as poor as they were in the 60s compared to the rich. This is now UK. The richest 50 families in UK, they are richer than 33.5 million people in UK. This is UK. Top 10% people own 57% of the wealth. Bottom 50% people own only 4.7% of the wealth. There are 2,849 millionaires and 177 billionaires in UK. And the top billionaire is a Hindu family, originally from India. It's called Gopi Hinduja and family. It's a company, and it's a family company. They are the richest in UK. Total wealth of 177 billionaires is $797 billion. Just look at that. So all the poverty in UK, people cannot pay their electricity bills. They cannot feed their children. And government is not helping them. but government is helping the rich get richer. 14.4 million are officially in poverty in 22. In 19, that's 22% of UK population are officially in poverty. That's according to ONS. ONS is Office of National Statistics. Okay, 2.1 million pensioners are in poverty. So this is what is the capitalism's legacy. And until the capitalism's control of the world is not removed, then the people cannot grow. May Allah bless us. May Allah help us to recover ourselves from the colonial mindset and to think that they are good, better than us. They are same as us. Just they have control structures everywhere. So thank you very much. And please contribute your experience and views, because you can see what capitalism is doing to the world. And do you know one more fact before I listen to you? France gave independence to the French African colonies, the West Africa, by making two conditions. One condition is all their gold reserves will be in France physically. Okay. Second is all their monies will be printed in France. So you can see they're still controlling it. They're still controlling those countries and their economies, and they can't grow like that. So these people have no shame. These people have no shame in still doing injustice as colonial powers. So please, I return to Brother Tahir Nadeem for any comments or questions.
Jazakumullah khair, Honorable Ustadz Mamoon Al-Azami. So all of us must have felt that there are some shocking statistics around the world, the atrocities of capitalism. And to be honest, because as an English literature teacher, we have been learning and teaching a lot of literary stuff that really very sharply criticize the impact of massively negative impact of capitalism. So people from their own, Western society criticizes, as Ustadh mentioned. So we have a very balanced Islamic economic model. So may Allah empower us to understand and implement in our society. So may I request brothers and sisters to come up with your comments, your questions. So we still have a good amount of time left in this webinar. So please feel free to raise your comments, your questions, and Honorable Ustadz Mamoon Al-Azami is here to give us more of his wisdom and his analysis. So yes, please. Any comments, questions from brothers and sisters?
Please feel free to share your thoughts and your experience, your understanding. There are a number of sisters I can see. Please, sisters, feel free to share your thoughts. It's important for us to understand, and see, we can aware people, we can spread the awareness that capitalism is a vice. Another angle is that Protestant ethic, Protestant culture is promoted this colonialism. And Desmond Tutu said, the missionaries came to Africa, they gave us Bible, and they got us into prayer, eyes closed. And when we opened our eyes, we have the Bible and they have our properties. This is what Desmond Tutu said of South Africa. So these are all well known, and they are still ashamed. I mean, for India, the British India, they had 27% of world trade. And when the colonialism ended, it was only 4%. So you can see how much harm they have left in the world. We are still suffering from their harm. Their systems and structures are still there. Their laws are still there. Pakistan, in India, in Nepal. Brother Yusuf, Brother Yusuf, your mic is on when you are speaking to somebody. Okay. So, Brother Yusuf, you were, did you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you so much, really, for such a resourceful research on capitalism. But as a layman, a common people in the system, especially in a non-Muslim country, so we feel a bit helpless. On one way that, of course, we earn a limited amount and have some savings, but really do not know how we should keep our money in a way that is safe, in the sense that we can sustain ourselves, but at the same time, we will not earn the curse of interest.
Okay, it is. Okay,
and also the depreciation and so on and so forth make us also really in a very difficult position in struggling, right? And especially in Hong Kong, for example, the price of real property is so sky high. And if you do not involve in borrowing from the bank, you will never be able to acquire any asset, or real asset. But if you pay for the rent only without buying a property, then also you will be also become really in a very difficult position. So these are the dilemmas that we are facing. So may you guide us on how we can how we can adjust to this reality.
This is a very important question, and it is important for us to discuss it and find ways and means to live and not get involved in something that is directly haram, and to be involved in war with Allah, basically.
Yes, yes.
How do the dilemma is not just in non-Muslim countries. Dilemma is also in Muslim countries. You would be surprised the Saudi Arabian central bank and most banks are still interest-based. There are 3 banks that are not interest-based. The one oldest bank is Al-Rajhi Bank, a new bank that came when I was there, and that's Bank Al-Bilad and Al-Inma Bank. These 3 are Islamic finance-based. So how do we, do we live in rented house all our lives or buy, but there is no option? Let me say in UK, I was here for 22 years. Then I went out and I was in Saudi Arabia, in Bangladesh for 2 years, and Saudi Arabia for 20 years. So another 22 years outside, and I came back 7 years ago. Of course, in between, I was coming every year. So UK had no Islamic banks, no Islamic finance available. And Muslims, the Muslim leaders started awareness. And now we have 7 Islamic finance property agencies that they will. Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank has an office in London, and I went to meet them 4 or 5 years ago, and the CEO was European non-Muslim, but he was an expert in Islamic finance. So there are professors who are non-Muslims, but they're experts in Islamic finance because they have written books about it too, and I have attended their classes in different universities. So this campaign started, and this awareness started, and in the end, Bank of England, the central bank, set up a team to look at the option of Islamic banking, because they wanted to also attract money from the Middle East. Consequently, we had one bank, then others came. They are not retail banks. Al-Rayan Bank is retail bank, but the others are property financing agencies. They are property purchase financing bodies. So there are mostly Middle Eastern, but there is Al-Rayan Bank, which is the bank that was initiated by Bank of England, the central bank. This is the retail bank. So I can have account, but the others I don't have need account, but I can get financed by them. And there are, so in other words, after awareness, after a lot of promotion, a lot of lobbying, a lot of discussion, and they saw it that the Muslims are interested in this type of business. So they are making products that are halal, lawful. I mean, I came 51 years ago to UK. It didn't exist. Now there are 7 available to my knowledge. Maybe there are more financing agencies. So we need to promote in our own countries similar process whereby we can promote. This is one option. Another option is leasing, which is hire purchase based on the property value. When I did my master's degree part-time while I was working for Manchester City Council, I did my master's and my dissertation was on Islamic finance. And my example was property purchase and how the bank can finance it and take income from it. It was hire purchase arrangement whereby 50%, I used a £12,000 property in Manchester at the time, which was a terraced property, 2-bedroom property. So I said that this property, I will pay 6,000 and the bank will pay 6,000. And bank will be therefore on a reducing equity. It will own 50%. So they will charge me first their own original sum of £6,000, which is 5 years, 60 months, £100 per month. Okay, original. But because they own 50% in the first year, they will get rent of the current market rent for it. If the market rent was £100, then they will get £50 because they own 50%. The following year, they will be into 40% and they will charge 40% of the current rent and then 30% like that. So, which is one of the systems that these 7 are using. So this is hire purchase. So it can also be leasing. So you can promote these things in order for the financial agencies to increase their business, because it is, we have to show them that no, we have to be on the halal front, but for them, there should be some profit. And yes, they will make money. You see, in the end, the mortgaged property, the interest goes up and down, and it keeps moving up and down. And now people are struggling because interest rate has gone up so many times in Western countries. So therefore, they need to make money in their business, and we have to promote it. We have to convince them that it is in their own profit-making business, but they have to make the profit halal way, our way. So they're not losing money, but we are not losing faith. So we are protecting our faith, we are protecting their money. This way we can begin the discussion with people who can convince them, who have understanding of the money and who are Muslims and who can actually explain to them. This is, so you have, until institutional mechanism comes, you can have an Islamic window in the current banks by discussing, and this is, in Bangladesh, there are 7 Islamic banks, but also because of Islamic banks' popularity, the conventional banks have Islamic windows, and they deal, all the financial products are legalized by an Islamic scholars team. So this is something you can do Also, you can do, there are many experiments. Also, you can do is a cooperative. You can bring people together, everybody contributes something, and then this money, when it grows, then this can finance each year. I know one organization set up by my friends in Manchester. It's called Ansar Finance. You can go Google it, and they are doing very well now. They have, many people have purchased property. This is actually Muslim community's own initiative, and they have now big office because they have been running for 20 years now. So this way, we can learn from others how it can be done. You can, before you can build the institution, you can convince the institutions to have an Islamic finance mechanism, and you can also have a cooperative. And because, but at the end of the day, if nothing works, we don't have to own a property, even though that is good. And I own the property. Alhamdulillah, I was not involved in any riba. Even I don't use credit card, because credit card, I agree to pay riba, even though I can settle it when the bill comes, but I cannot agree on something that is haram. So when I didn't understand it, I had credit card, and I had £10,000 credit limit, which I never used, because I only used for purchasing. Now I use debit card. Whatever I have, I spend. I returned it to them because I cannot agree. When in Saudi Arabia, one brother told me that how can you agree to something that Allah made not just haram, but Allah declared war on? So that I didn't connect that. So once that happened, I just cut it out immediately. So I didn't pay interest. Even sometimes credit card bill was misplaced when it came by paper, was misplaced, and interest accumulated. I wrote to them and said, sorry, but for religious reasons, I cannot pay interest. You can return, take the card. Please forgive me. And they forgave me. I have those letters. A few times it happened. So that means we assume that they will not forgive. That's why we pay interest. We don't pay interest. But there is a fatwa. I have my account in the current account in the main bank that I have been with for 45 years, since 1974, basically, 49 years now. So I have a current account that I operate with the debit card, but I also have whatever I can save, little. I'm not in a job, so I only have pension. So I have Al Rayyan Islamic Bank, which is owned by the Kuwaitis or Qataris. Originally, it wasn't. So they have a 60-day notice account where they give profit. They cannot declare beforehand, but they calculate afterwards, which is the Islamic system. And they add profit. So this is how I'm operating. I would say that you need to explore with the financing institutions and convince them that this is their business will expand if they do it. So this is how it happened in UK. And there are Middle Eastern, but also the first retail bank was initiated by Bank of England, because they saw in it that there is going to be a good business. So this is some of the experience and knowledge that I have, that I shared with you. But at the end of the day, we should know that if there is no option, we will still stay in rented accommodation. We may not own property that's not fard for us. So if necessary, that sacrifice will be rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in dunya and akhirah. Any other?
Jazakumullah khair, Ustadh Mamoon Al-Azami, for very, very comprehensive response to Brother Yusuf's question. There are a couple of comments in the chat box by brothers and sisters. Thank you very much for contributing your thoughts. And one of the question is about Bitcoins and digital currency. Now a new type of economic structure is growing in which system, you will include that system like decentralized type of system, digital currency. So the sister is saying that hope he is, I think sister is trying to ask what's the legitimacy from Islamic perspective, what's the legitimacy of this digital currency in current economic market?
You
Yeah.
start with the first, there's no name, but it says guest. It says, I want to ask how Osman Radiallahu Anhu used to donate and earn back good amount of money. He was in business. He was a businessman and he was a very rich man, and he made waqf, but he died poor. So Abu Bakr was not so rich, but he was rich enough, but he also died poor. So you can see in Islam, if you give the money away in wasiyah or will, we are allowed up to 30% to be given away to whoever we want. 70% is reserved for those who have right on my property, my children, my spouse, and my parents. These are the right owners. If I have no children, then there are others come in. But if I have children, I have spouse. So this way, we have to understand that the Uthman Radiallahu Anhu set up waqf. That waqf is still in Medina, and is still making money and helping poor. Amazingly, so he was a millionaire of his time, but he didn't die millionaire, because he said, I want to give away, because then Allah will give me. His children, if you train your children to earn their own living, they don't depend on your money. So you can donate more. That's also another angle. My father, who was an Islamic leader, he gave up his whole life for the sake of dawah and Islamic work. And he didn't have money to buy any land or property. He only had a land from his father. And then we brothers built a property there with Islamic Bank Finance, 75%, and we paid 25%, like that. So, meaning that we are good enough to earn ourselves. So we did not depend on, even the building is there, we are not using it, and we are not using the rent from it. We are paying bank, and there is some money left, and we are donating here and there. So in other words, if our children are qualified, good Muslim and qualified Muslim, they can earn their own living. So we don't have to worry about that. But whatever we have, we can give them. We can give them. 70% is reserved for them. 30% is maximum we can give according to Quran. So this is also, so Uthman Radiallahu Anhu, he gave good money. That's on that. Mahwish said now a new type of economic structure is growing. Decentralized system. Actually, Islamic system is decentralized. It's not central control so much. Delegation of authority and local conditioning. That's why wherever, you see, 90% of the Sahaba went out around the globe to do dawah and do business. And biggest number of them were Yemenis. That's why Indonesia, Malaysia, they were not conquered by armies. Yes, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, these were conquered by armies. And then Islam was propagated and they accepted Islam. But Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, that area, they were not conquered by any army. But Yemeni Muslims, traders, went there and spread Islam. So what we can do is, they married locally and they settled down. Even now, I know a number of Jordanian businessmen became Thai nationals in Thailand. They married Thai Muslims, and their home language is Thai. And they are very much part of the society and contributing to society. In terms of decentralization, it is Islamic system rather than keep control. The control is internalized and decentralized. This is one part. The other part is digital currency, Bitcoin. Bitcoin and all these digital currencies are still very volatile, and Islamic scholars have not given final verdict on it. So I will wait until there's final verdict. I'm not expert like that, so I would not be able to give a verdict on that. There are from Pakistan, for example, Dr. Taqi Osmani. He was an expert on Islamic finance. I have a friend who is senior professor in UK in Durham University. His name is Dr. Habib Ahmed. He used to be a senior economist in Islamic Development Bank too. He was a professor in America. So I could ask him because he deals with the financial scholars. There are financial scholars here in UK. I can ask them about Bitcoin and what are the implications of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has been very volatile. A friend of mine has been doing Bitcoin business and he lost £50,000 just like that. So it's quite volatile, because if its value goes up and down erratically, not stable, then one should be alert, not to go into that in a big way. There is another, Islamic banks are still working around the Islamic rulings, but now this is an important point that you make. Islamic banks should have Islamic central bank and Islamic government supporting it. Otherwise, it's working in a kufr system under the kufr system. The Central Bank of Bangladesh, Central Bank here, they're all kufr system. And in Pakistan too, in Saudi Arabia too. So Muslim countries do not have, I do not know about how Iranian central bank operates, but the countries that I have mentioned, they have the interest-based system supervising Islamic banking. So they have limitations. Because you see, Islamic bank would want to give finance to a good project, not necessarily rich project, businessman. A good project to contribute to the economy and for the person with good ideas to grow. But you need two things. One is competence, and the other is honesty. If you are dishonest but competent, you will steal money, you will cheat. If you are honest but incompetent, you will lose. So these two things are provided by central government. The citizens are trained and developed so that they can benefit from it. So when Islamic government is there, Islamic central bank is there, and they are both, one is regulating the Islamic banks or all banks, all financial institutions on an Islamic basis, and Islamic government making laws and training citizens for Islamic business performance. That's when Islamic banking can perform well. The pure halal issue is, I know I worked in Islamic, the top Islamic Bank of Bangladesh and its staff training college as principal. So I know that when, let's say, let me give you a concrete example. If I want to buy a car, I choose the car, and the bank will buy it, and they will issue receipt in the name of the bank. So its bank is the owner. Then I make an agreement to buy it from the bank. Car can remain where it is. This is how I bought my car in Islamic Development Bank. So I buy according to the price tag of the bank's price tag. So naturally, there is a cost plus, which is called murabaha, or there is ijara, leasing, hire purchase. There are different mechanisms. So I buy that car by financial agreement with the bank. So the bank will then authorize me to become the owner and be registered. This is how it happened in Saudi Arabia. In my name, they issued I chose the car. The bank issued the check to the car showroom, and they issued the receipt for the bank. And the bank then said, please register in his name after agreement. I signed the agreement. And also in Islamic Development Bank, I paid them profit of 12,500 reals. But the showroom, Toyota company that sold me, if I took their interest-based hire purchase, it would cost me 25,000 reals, double than the bank charged. So there are two-edged benefit. One is I'm halal, but the other is I'm also not paying as much. So this is how it can work. But when it doesn't work, let's say, if the bank says, okay, I pay and you take the money and register it. So the ownership has not changed. And therefore, this money and the profit that the bank is making is in interest, because the car has to be owned by the bank and resold to the ultimate owner. That's the murabaha scheme. That's the buying and selling scheme. This is halal. But if I pay the money and say, go and buy the car, then I charge them. This is interest, because there was no goods in or service in between. So this is one we has to understand. Profit versus interest. Interest is any increase in loan transaction is interest. Any increase in trade transaction is profit. So where there is loan, it is interest. Where there is buying and selling, this is profit. So this is simple formula. Therefore, the banks that they have their Sharia board, if the Sharia board has authorized, then I can trust them, just the way I trust halal meat sellers. Okay, Dr. Muhammad Salman is saying it is not permitted to have credit card, even I pay amount before. No, because I'm not paying interest, but I'm agreeing to interest. And how will I stand before Allah and say, Allah, I agreed, I didn't pay, but I agreed to pay interest. So a Muslim cannot agree to something that Allah has declared war on. So that's why, Brother Muhammad, Dr. Muhammad Salman, we are not able to take credit card. I use debit card. A debit card is good enough. Whatever income I have, I spend. I don't borrow from them to spend. So this is, that's why I have given up. How to deal with inflation as Muslims? Now, that's a good question. Inflation cuts the purchasing power of the money. So that's why whatever I can save, I save with Al Rayan Bank, and they add whatever profit they add. So I get some money to counter inflation. Inflation is now falling. It came to 11%. Now it's falling. So, but I don't get as much. It's not inflation cover, but it's still, I'm losing purchasing power, because I get maybe inflation is 11%, and I probably got less than half of that percentage wise. So that loss we will have to accept for faith, and Allah will reward us. And Allah has rewarded me. I'm debt free, and I don't have luxury life anyway, but I have a property I bought with my son here where I'm living. So Alhamdulillah, it was because I worked in the Islamic Development Bank, and I could save money, and I could also withdraw 50% of my pension fund, which they allow. So with which I bought this property, and I borrowed some privately, the money I paid back over the time. So this is how. So in other words, our position should be as believers. What Allah and Rasul said, we will follow. And if there is any pain, there will be some gain. So I have to face that pain rather than dunya pain and akhirah pain. Akhirah pain is worse. So we can deal with dunya pain, but Allah will find a way, and we need to try. So that's why I recommend that our starting point is we will not have anything to do with riba. Then we find a way, a halal way, and we explore. If there is a pressure, there is a need, then there will be ways. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Those who struggle to follow my way, I will find them the way. This is Allah saying. So thank you very much.
Okay, Jazakumullah khair. Ustadh. So there are a couple of other quick questions. So how about we agree to wind up this session in the next 5 minutes, because originally the time slot was until 4:15. So maybe we could have another 5 minutes, but if some of the brothers and sisters, they have their own commitment, of course, you could feel free to leave. But how about we wind it
Sister
up?
asked any question.
Yeah, so there's a question. There are two more questions, I guess. How
Can
about
I
if,
use card if necessary? If you
yeah,
have Muslim credit card that doesn't deal with interest, yes. So, but if there is basically interest is the problem. So if there is any credit card that doesn't involve interest, you see, insurance problem is also interest. So I have to deal with car insurance. There is no choice. So the ulama and the scholars said, where you are legally required and otherwise there will be a bigger problem, then it is a rukhsa, means concession, because there is no other way. When the law binds you, and the insurance companies are all interest-based. So where I have no option, on the property purchase, I have option. So for the first 22 years, I didn't buy any property. And then I bought this one in 2016. So anyway, so basically what Allah said, haram is haram. And it's also important to mention, Prophet said, al-halalu bayyin, wal-haramu bayyin, baynahuma umurul mutashabihat. Halal is clearly stated. So, and haram is clearly stated. And in between are gray areas. Those who have strong faith, they should avoid gray areas and stay purely in halal. That's the principle. Okay. So there is a comment by a sister in Bangladesh who is an Islamic dawah leader. She said, if what Allah made haram, we are looking for excuses to avoid it, then our faith is corrupt. If Allah made haram and I do not respect it, I try to look for scholars and muftis who will give me fatwa to avoid what Allah made haram directly, not conditionally, then my faith is corrupt. So this is also an important issue for us to reflect. Okay.
Jazakumullah khairan. And can we request once again for more blessing if Ustadz Mamoon Al-Azami himself could recite dua for all of us to bless the session, to close it. So that will be really very nice to close the session.
Okay, Ya Allah, I start with the dua for the Palestinian sufferers. The oppressors of the world are suffering and they're all together. Allah, please help all the oppressed people of the world, especially people of Gaza, people of Kashmir, people of Rohingya. All these people are suffering, and there are many others suffering in Syria and in Libya and Morocco through natural disaster. Allah, please help all the people who are suffering.
Ameen.
Allah, please help us to make dua for them. Please help us to make awareness about the oppression going on with others. Allah, help us to also pay whatever financial assistance we can give through charities so that these people can be helped. Allah, please help us to feel the pain, some of the pain of those people who are suffering without electricity, without food, without anything, without water. Allah, please help us to be obedient. Allah, help us to stand with the values of faith. Allah, help us to be good to each other. Allah, help us to make alliance with non-Muslims who are fair and just-minded. Allah, help us to help those who are in need. Allah, help us to create Islamic options for all to benefit from. Allah, help us to share our knowledge and understanding and practice with each other so that we can all support each other to grow into higher heights. Allah,
Ameen.
please, dua, please accept accept the effort of Brother Yusuf and his team to organize these events. Allah,
Ameen.
Ameen.
please make us on the list of your servants. Allah, help us to improve ourselves every day. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام
Ameen.
عليكم.
Wa alaikum assalam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward Ustadz Mamoon Al-Azami abundantly and reward all of you for taking your time to attend this session to make it really meaningful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.